Thank you. Cool.
All right. Well, the quieting down, I think, means I shall get started. Well, thank you all for joining us for kicking off Global Entrepreneurship Week here in 2023. Excited to kick off with this impactful, powerful discussion on the power of authentic leadership with the FourthWave team. Just a little bit, I'm going to do some brief introductions about Global Entrepreneurship Week. My name is Cameron Law. I serve as the Executive Director here of the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and we're proud to be stewarding this effort throughout the week. We have over 20 events that will be hosted here throughout the week to support entrepreneurship and innovation across our region. We want to recognize that, one, it's not just a regional effort. We're actually joining over 200 communities around the globe that are fostering this effort forward. So we're celebrating entrepreneurship's role across the region, but also joining this global movement around entrepreneurship and innovation. And so we wouldn't be here without our amazing sponsors. So back in 2018, we had the support of Western Health Advantage, who endowed this effort so we could be able to support students and community members in really fostering the entrepreneurial activity. And so we've been excited to partner with them for the last 5 years on this effort. We also have some amazing angel sponsors. So we have SMUD coming in as one of them. So let's give some love. And if you want to check out more resources, you can with Franklin, and I'll deal with this mic here in a second. But then we also have Sandhill Global Advisors, who's not necessarily here, but they're an amazing sponsor of ours. So let's give it up for them as well. And then we have our startup sponsor, 5 Star Bank, and we have Maria on the panel. So there we go. Give it up for them. And then we have our idea sponsors, Golden Credit Union, City of Roseville, and the College of Continuing Education. So let's give it up for our idea sponsors as well. Awesome. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jesse, one of our entrepreneurs in residence, who will be leading this panel discussion. So take it away.
Thanks, Cameron. And are you going to bring that mic back around for these guys?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just making sure. All right. We could pass one back and forth, but I think this will go a little bit more smoothly. Hi, everyone. Super glad to see you all today. I think we're going to have a wonderful and rich discussion this afternoon, and kicking off Global Entrepreneurship Week. We're really excited to do so. My name is Jessie Becker-Alexander. I'm an entrepreneur in residence here at the Carlson Center, and I've also been working with FourthWave for the last few years, helping run the program. I myself am also a startup entrepreneur, so I'm happy to be facilitating this conversation with our wonderful panelists here today. A little bit about FourthWave. I think most of you already have had some interaction with the organization. FourthWave is a nonprofit accelerator for women-led technology businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about FourthWave and the ethos here in a second. But first, I really also want to thank our sponsors, our FourthWave sponsors, 2 of which we've already heard about. 5 Star Bank, who Maria is here representing today, thank you, as well as Franklin from SMUD. They're 2 absolutely fantastic supporters of our entire entrepreneurial ecosystem here in the Sacramento region. In addition to that, of course, we have to thank our sponsors who aren't here. We have GSEC, the City of Elk Grove, Clutch, and Stoll Reeves. Yeah, woo! Oh, Clutch is here. Clutch is here. Clutch, yeah, woo! Okay. Glad we nailed that down. Sweet. Awesome. So I think we should just dive into our discussion. I'll give a little introduction of each of our panelists. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Does that sound good? All right, so I'm going to introduce each of you briefly, but we're going to hear your stories as well. So just give a quick high level. All right, Maria. Maria Baptista Soria is the VP Director of Community Relations at 5 Star Bank. And her background is really fantastic, though. Maria's been a supporter of small business and entrepreneurs in the Sacramento community from day one, and has held multiple leadership positions with different organizations here in Sacramento, including as the director of the Capital Region SBDC, and a VP as well at the Sacramento Mentor Chamber, amongst other positions, but always a constant supporter of the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. And she's also a Sac State alum. Made it Sac State, singers up, there you go. And Maria will tell you more about her story as we get going. Next, in the middle, we have Lisa Reitzman. Lisa is also a Sac State alum. Woo, singers up, go do it. And during her time here was on the women's soccer team, and I read online that during your final year, you were the leading goal scorer on the soccer team. I feel like that's...
Second in history still.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Not first, second. Don't forget it.
Close to first, though?
Always.
Yeah. And Lisa will tell us all about her story, but currently she's the managing director at Street Soccer USA and the founder of the Sacramento chapter here in the region. And as well, there were so many awards listed and online, but I'll just mention that from Sac State Alumni Association, Lisa did recently receive the Distinguished Service Award. So wonderful. Yeah, super great. And last but not least, we have Christy Serrato. I love that Christy's getting claps right off the bat. I think everyone in the room probably already has intersected with Christy at some point. She's, as you all know, a joy. But a little bit about Christy, she's the founder and CEO of Pair Anything, which she will tell us a little bit more about today. But prior to that, she was involved in the product sales and marketing in multiple industries, very different from wine and food, everything from fintech, cybersecurity to enterprise software. And as just like Maria, a fantastic supporter of the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Sacramento, as the entrepreneur in residence at FourthWave, and a founding fellow at the Sacramento Entrepreneurial Academy, amongst other things. So on and on and on. I think each of you, I already feel like I did long intros, but each of you could have had much longer intros. So thank you, all three of you, for being here today. Let's go ahead and dive in, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so so I'll get us started with a little bit of what we hope to talk about today. So FourthWave, like I said, is an accelerator program for technology businesses founded or led by women. And FourthWave is a little bit unique in that there is a very strong ethos of building leadership potential within each of our founders and each member of our cohort. And one of the big things that we really stress throughout all the leadership training in the program is finding and being able to operate within your own authenticity. And that's something that we've seen through FourthWave, and all of us here on this stage today have seen in our personal lives as well, that when we operate as authentic leaders, we are powerful and we change the world. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. First, I'd love for each of you to I introduced you, but could you just tell your story?
I don't know where to start. I won't talk about the professional accomplishments. I think, to me, it's something personal. People in my circle, they've always commented that my superpower is how I relate to people, right? And I don't know what brought that about. I mean, I'm a middle child. There was a point in my life that I stopped speaking. It was when a nun teacher asked me to switch from writing left to right. From writing with my left hand to my right hand. And in protest, I stopped talking, right? what happens when you don't talk? What do you end up doing more? You listen. And that stuck with me. And so I have a way of listening to people in a way that I listen beyond the words, right? And when you talk, like I pick up things and people always comment on that. And so that guided my career, even though I went and worked in 5 industries, always starting from the bottom and working my way up, and very successful. But what also happened is I had this authentic part of me, but then over time in my careers, for whatever reason, I was put in situations where I had to hide or diminish myself to fit in, right? And it's because I was probably the only woman, maybe the only minority woman in technology and in banking. And not once did I ever introduce myself as like a Filipina banker or Filipina, tech person. And it wasn't until much later, and I'll talk about that, that I discovered this organization that I'm now the entrepreneur in residence for, that helped me live more authentically. And now I'm kind of processing that, I'm unpacking it. And it's great because it brought me to be able to do something completely different from my prior experience, and to actually start a company from scratch, and to be able to pull from my community, like the Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy. And when I am able to ask for help, people were able to respond. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think it's just understanding like what's your inner core and having that guide you to all the things, all the wonderful things that you could do in your life.
I'll try to keep this sort of short, but I think for the context of this event, it's important, like my journey into being sort of an entrepreneur, managing a nonprofit was not intentional at all. And I think in a lot of ways too, a byproduct of seeking that authenticity and finding the things that I love. And for me, when I came here, I was on scholarship. Soccer was always, really sports was always a place I just felt confident, free. I didn't know why, but I performed well. That was, there's a lot of elements that it just kind of provided this space for me to kind of be my best. And so that's something I leaned into always. And that led me to here on a soccer scholarship, and did really well again. And I loved being a student athlete. I loved everything about it. It's the only thing I ever loved doing. And it is work. We did have hard practices, but I had a lot of other jobs that I hated. Like I never liked a job. And every job I had was so that I could keep playing soccer. It was always around the schedule. It was always around there. But what happened when my last year here, I was, doing really well. The Women's Professional League looked like it was gonna be open and available as an opportunity for me to, try out and go pro. And then the Women's League folded, and I graduated, and it was just not prepared for that transition at all. And I really hadn't found another space that I could feel my best or even lean into. And so for me, that was like what I found was drugs and alcohol. That's kind of the thing that produced the closest to being on a team and performing. And I got into it so heavily that I ended up, basically being arrested multiple times, ending up in jail with nothing. And then I got introduced to Street Soccer USA kind of in my journey of sobriety. And unintentional, never wanted to play soccer again. Because it's like, I got to find something new, which is what I learned, because there's no opportunity for career. My passion for soccer does not equate to a career. And somehow, like I got into this program as a player and it just clicked. And I got the benefits of being a participant in some of these events that I went to, but I loved it so much that it was like, how do I just have more of this? And that's literally like the beginning of how I got into creating a chapter here. Everything was just motivated about how do we have more of this, because it just didn't exist. So my whole experience as an entrepreneur leader was all figure it out as you go. And that's, what I do today. And we've had some really big events that we've had great opportunities, but it was always about finding that space where I can be my best and something that I want to do and put a lot of time into. But I'll tell you more about it, I'm sure, today, but that's kind of the gist of it.
All right.
Got it. Come on. You did it.
What I have to follow up? No. Well, hello everyone. So I'll just start out. I'm a Sacramento native. Been here my whole life, and I say that to say I went to college here. Stairs up, as you heard, Sac City, like everything Sacramento, right? And so I'm really prideful to be here and to be able to have been in roles that I get to support the community. And how that all started actually wasn't a straight line, right? I came to Sac State with the intention of doing criminal justice. And, I wanted to be an investigator. It sounds funny, but I saw CSI and I thought that was it for me. I want to do this. And so anyways, going into school and doing that, I enjoyed college, but I think, as I was trying to progress and start going into internships and work, just it wasn't panning out for me, whatever was going on. I was working at the state and it just didn't pan out because of budget cuts. So happenstance, I ended up going to a family friend's function, and I ran into a family friend that said, hey, there's an opportunity to work as an intern at the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I said, okay, I know nothing about that, but I'm about opportunity, so I'm going to go ahead and take it and see what it can do for me, and then I can go on to try and find a new opportunity in criminal justice if that works out, but at least it's something to do while I'm in school. Little did I know that was going to change the whole trajectory of my career. I know we're talking personal, but I will say my career is very personal to me. It's a part of who I am because of what I get to do. And so as I got a chance to get into the Chamber of Commerce space and work with the small businesses, and especially those from ethnic communities, it really grounded me in what my passion was. And it really did allow me to really be more authentic in how I help support others. So I went into the California Hispanic Chamber, worked there for some time, and then I ended up following my CEO at the time, who went to the Asian Chamber of Commerce. So I ended up working for the Sacramento Asian Chamber for a little bit and running programs over there. Again, being able to work with small businesses just was my thing, right? And knowing that I can help support them, that made me feel like I was doing what I needed to be doing. And that was my passion. And so went on to divert a little bit, went to a Black-owned marketing firm for a little bit, got to get some exposure there. But again, working with a small business in the thick of it, right? And being able to understand the trials and tribulations and the wins and celebrations, it was just great to be a part of that. And again, I got to be with people and got to help other people be authentic in what they were trying to do and how they were trying to brand themselves in the community. And then I realized, this profitable stuff is not my thing. I think I need to go back to nonprofit. So went back to the California Hispanic Chamber for my second term. But what was great is I got to actually run all of the programs for, statewide. And that was creating new programs to help support businesses in different ways, young professionals and emerging leaders. That again was another way for me to stay connected to people like Christy. I pride myself in being a community connector, and it just had allowed me to do that firsthand for my job. So I never felt like I was really working, right? And so I ended up getting scooped up to be the director of the SBDC. Again, as you can imagine, just being able to go through it. And let me tell you, the timing of that was fantastic. It was the month before COVID. So you can imagine, having to lean into your authenticity of leading an organization like that to support business owners, one via Zoom is hard. but being able to be there and genuinely connect with them, that was what I was trying to get through as I was leading that center at the time. And because it was devastating times for people, right? And so again, leaning to my people space, right? I was able to help support them in that, and that was great. It was actually a learning experience for me too. And then, unfortunately, my role changed. The contract didn't stay where it was supposed to stay. So I navigated to a new role, and that ended up giving me the opportunity to engage with leaders in the community. That, it's one thing to work with businesses, but to be with the leaders that are creating economic development in our space, that are supporting entrepreneurs and all that stuff. I was like, I want to be that. That's what I want to be. And so through the chamber world and all that, I just leaned into my connections and just leaned into those that I could be my authentic self with and be genuine with, and know, like, I'm here to do something here and make change. So please connect with me, right? Please help me out. And I'll talk more about that later, but I think ultimately it helped lead me to where I'm at today. And now I get to be of service, because I've always been a person of service, but be of service in a different way. And luckily, I work for an organization that allows me to be me. And it benefits them, because I get to be around all these amazing people and build these relationships on their behalf. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now today. So.
Wonderful. Thank you all for telling these stories. Yeah. You all, so in telling your stories, each of you kind of effortlessly walked through, well, and then I liked this thing, and then I liked this thing, and now I'm here. And you made that sound super easy. And I think we all know that identifying those things isn't always super straightforward. How did you start to learn about what was authentically you and what authentically made you brighten? Like, how'd you do that?
Well, I'll go real quick. I will say, and it was one instance that happened to me. I was working for an organization. I won't name names. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was working for an organization, and as I was, I was young, and I wanted to just do all that I can do and be all that I can be and be the best, right? Be the best I can be for those who I was serving. And I happened to work in an organization where the leadership was not that. I just felt like things were not being handled ethically and, not to the best service of those that we were supposed to be supporting. And at that moment, it was, because I was in a space of, I got to earn my keep, I got to earn my stripes, so I can't really say anything. Even though it was genuinely like eating me inside to know that I wasn't in a place that was doing what they needed to be doing the right way, I guess that's how I could put it. And so I realized, I had to really lean into what I felt was right and what I felt I needed to do for myself, that I could be the best person that I could be in servicing others. And so I made the decision to leave. I said, I cannot be myself here. I can't speak up. I can't lean into my skills. Why am I going to stay somewhere where I don't feel comfortable and there wasn't people supporting me? And so at that moment, I said, I'm going to lean into me. I'm going to do what I feel is best for me, morally, ethically, and all that, and then like lean into my core values. And so I ended up moving into something different, right? Or going into the next phase of my chapter, I guess, my next season, as a lot of people say it. But ultimately, I think that was a moment for me that really just kind of set the tone for how I was going to work going forward, and who I was going to work for, and what I was going to do, right? I wasn't ever going to be in a place where I couldn't be myself. That was important to me after experiencing that. So.
For me, it was literally killing me. Like, that was a big root of my addiction, was I think as a kid and, I'm gay, and that was something that I was very afraid of how that would affect my professional career. And for a while, I was a personal trainer at a really high-end studio, and I was terrified, like if they found out, they'd think I was lying to them. And then even as I started, like with my struggles of, ending college, my first sort of issue was a DUI. And again, I was terrified to talk about it, so I didn't. So it was just like this thing. And that was not the way for that not to happen again. But I think as a younger person and having, soccer in my life and team, there was always that place where I could be myself. And as I was getting older, I didn't have that anymore. And so everything I was doing was I thought I wanted to be in the spaces I was in, like fun on paper or talking about, I liked being a personal trainer. I liked that identity. But in that environment, like I always was exerting more effort than other people. And I didn't really know that's what was happening. But I think, like, to your point, it's like if you're moving from job to job, like how do you know when to go or what's too much? And for me, like my tolerance was pretty high for effort. Like I can put out a lot of effort, and it takes a lot for me to drop and be like, I can't do it anymore. And unfortunately, that's kind of what I went to. It was just like, I used and I drank to kind of make that stuff easier, until that became a problem. But then when I, got sober and was kind of realizing like how I was using these substances, it all came back to trying to be somebody I wasn't. And and being in environments where people didn't truly know me, or I didn't feel like I could be myself. And for me in that moment, it was like, if I drink or use again, I'm gonna die, because it took me to a pretty bad place. So it made it a little bit easier for me to be like, I have to be authentic. It's literally like a lifeline for me. And I didn't have any tattoos before I got sober. These are all afterwards. and part I don't like, I've made it work for myself, but part of it was like, if I can't, they're reminders, but if I can't be in a room with these things, I don't belong there, because I know myself enough and I can start to shapeshift if I want to. I'll lie to myself. But I think the best way is like you'll recognize it because you're exerting more effort if you're not being authentic. And like everybody has different tolerances and capacities, and there might be jobs where it's like I'm consciously doing this and it's temporary and makes sense. I don't need to tell everybody everything. But if you start to look at your overall health and your mental health and your wellness, and that it will affect you. And so I think that's when you got to kind of start to see is like, maybe it's not what you think, or you decide, is it my health or is it my image? But that was kind of what it was for me.
It's interesting, in my prior life, I always thought that I was successful. I never thought it was artificial success, right? I mean, I was securing banks all around the world. I've been in 54 countries. I went to the top of the world in Nepal, trying to help their banking system. And I have a patent in identity assurance. And I thought I was living my best life, right? I could do anything that I wanted. But then something happened. Both my parents got sick. And I realized, what is important to me, right? Family is super important to me. They're my rock. And so out of all my siblings, I was in a position to take a break, right? I thought it was temporary. And I moved out to Sacramento, not knowing a single person here. And what was nice about that is I realized that this is where I want to be, right? This community with my parents. And I'm glad I did that, because I didn't realize that it was a short time I had left with my mom. And when you take yourself off that train, that high-speed train, and take a pause, you get to realize what are the things that you want to do. Because all the things that I achieved 5 industries, different companies, different functions, right? I have to say, thank goodness I had a good work ethic because it was hard, right? I mean, I lived out of my suitcase, hardly saw my family, and when I reflect back, I felt like I missed out a lot. And so now it's nice to know that when you give yourself the opportunity, you will make the right choice, because I know I did. And I've never regretted it, because now I have this community that is like family to me.
Wow, powerful stuff from each of you. What I kind of took away just as snippets, Maria, I heard that core pivotal moment for you was realizing a misalignment with core values. That was what it was for you. And Lisa, I heard you realize over and over again you were efforting, and not able to be yourself. And that was maybe a little kernel that allowed you to move forward. And Christy, a pause. You gave yourself a pause to do something different. So I love that. Love it so much. Probably, I know that resonated with me. It probably resonated with everyone here as well. I'd love to hear more about after that. Like, you each are incredible leaders in your own right. And what has living authentically enabled you to innovate, change, and what's lovely about that? I want to hear a little bit about that. I'm going off script, guys. Sorry, but that's there you go.
It's a hard question. It's like, touting myself. It's hard for me to do that.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you
Yes,
each to
okay.
tout yourselves a little bit.
So here's one, right? When you show up for people, when you're authentic, what happens, right? You connect with people in a way that is meaningful. And when you make an ask, gosh, you know that person's going to say yes. So when I started Pair Anything, I asked for help. Guess who volunteered? They're right there. And when I needed investment, it was the founder of SEA and also my good friend at Google, right? People show up for you because you show up for them. And one recent example, because it came out in the news today, even when you're not actively fundraising for Pair Anything, you get investment. Like we got investment from the world's most active pre-seed investor, Techstars. And this specific fund is for underrepresented founders, right? So if you put yourself out there, and I know it's uncomfortable because I feel it. I feel it when I'm here right now with this illustrious women here, and I'm in awe of them. It's like I feel like I have a lot to learn from these two. So it's a process of showing up, being your true self, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable. Lean into that, because when you're uncomfortable, it means that you're growing.
From never introducing yourself as a Filipina to investment from Techstars, from an underrepresented founders fund. That's amazing.
No, I love the show up. I mean, that's huge. That's literally like of Street Soccer USA's curriculum. That's our first life skill of being a part of in life, and then being a part of a team. It's the show up. And that's something that everybody has the ability to do, which is why it's, so important or universal. Trying to think back to what you're asking. What was the question? Totally, because I thought about it and then I got like taken into
Christy's
It was
story.
a good response. Yeah. I was listening.
I was asking what's brilliant about being an authentic leader now that you've hit,
I would love to say that I don't care what people think about me, but I do care what they think about Street Soccer USA. And so that is the good news is I care more about that than myself. But you still kind of have to play the game. You have to have relationships. People need to want to have you around. Like they need to know you can go to an event and like handle yourself and things like that. Um, and I believe, I think what I love about my job and the nonprofit is I absolutely believe that it's necessary and that it can change people's lives. So again, like people say, no, I don't doubt myself. Like there's no lack of certainty in what we're doing. Is it important? Is it needed? So those are things that I don't need, outside influence on. So that's nice to have that level of confidence, especially when people aren't donating or they're not getting it, or they're like, our organization was kind of new, and why are you having homeless people play soccer? Like it was not a no-brainer for people here. So it took a lot of relationship building for people to understand street soccer, and a lot of them, they just started to like us and myself and my wife enough to where they're like, I don't really get it, but I like want to support you guys. Until over 10 years, we've been able to show that work a little bit differently and make it something that's not as unknown and that there is research. But it usually started with the relationship and how they perceived us. And the great thing was I didn't have to believe in myself because I believed in the mission. And that was really good practice. But it is difficult. The authenticity thing is huge. That's how we work with the people, the kids that we work with, the adults. If they don't believe me, they're not gonna trust us. Trust is everything. But I think with the donors too, and just all those relationships is people, if they believe you, if they trust you, and they get to know you, most of the time they're gonna wanna see you succeed. I think that's more normal than people wanting other people to fail. It's like, but if they don't know you, then it's hard for them to know what that success looks like. So I think that's something that a lot of our leadership programs and mentors gave us was our whole first few years of network was just people who were kind of like, I'm rooting for you and you happen to be doing this work. And until I understand this work, I'm going to invest in you. And that's kind of how that started for us. It was very different, but all around being transparent and authentic, and then just showing up and never giving up and doubting it. Well, I get doubt, but not enough doubt to stop.
Well, I'll say in my case, I think given to where I'm at now, I think before being a nonprofit, it was important to me to be as genuine as possible and be myself. I did sit in roles where I was engaging with our donors, right, and our funders, and it was important for me. Yes, I wanted to give them everything that they've asked for and make sure that they feel supported, but ultimately I wanted them to get to know me and know that they can count on me. And I will say one of those instances happened when, and you guys all probably experienced this when, you talk to a potential funder, it's like, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, I can do this for you. And I said, you know what? Let me just treat this as if I was talking to someone off the street. Like, what do you need? How can I help make you successful in my role? And I mean, I know I'm a nobody at this point, right? I'm just your corporate concierge. But at the end of the day, how can I support you and to make you successful? And I will always remember, and I tell people this all the time, it's that person goes, Maria, as long as I've supported this organization, no one has ever asked me that. And I found that to be interesting because I'm like, but how are you supporting me and buying into what we're trying to put together and our purpose? But also I'm not making it mutually beneficial for you. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I feel like now that I'm in the space that I'm in where I get to be a funder or a donor, right? It's still making those connections with people to say like, I still want to be genuine. I still want to help you. And I want, it's not just financially. How can if I can't be the one to support you financially, how can I connect you? How can I be there to support you in your business or your organization? Because that's who I am. I want to connect. I want to help make you successful. Because for me, that makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in my purpose, right? So I think for me, I get to now be in a place I always say I'm in a role that I'm on the other side of it, right? I'm on the side where I get to give back in a different way, but it really does allow me now to really engage that authenticity muscle and really make those connections with everyone. And I just want everyone that I do engage with, like I said, to really know that I'm genuine in that space, regardless of what I can do for them, right? Because a lot of the time people see you as, in all reality, bag of money, right? Like, hey, you could be my potential sponsor. That's great. But at the same time, like, to Lisa's point, you got to get to know me and I got to get to know you. And once we buy into each other and we build that relationship, I got you. You're in my circle. Like, it's it, right? And that's how that's with friends, family, people meet off the street. Like, if we're seeing eye to eye, then you're in it. And I got your back. So that's how I always see it, no matter if, like I said, no matter if I'm in work, personal, or wherever the case. I want it to always be the same, treat everyone the same, look at everyone the same in that way.
I love it. I'm just listening now, and I'm like, I'd love to. So we are going to open it up for questions from the audience here in a second. But I have another off-script question for you. Sorry. What are a couple descriptors and how you would describe your authentic leadership? How would you describe it? Like,
I would say for me, it's just very raw. Like, I have chosen to put my effort into the work getting done. And I know that I can't pretend to be perfect at the same time. So I just like try to let that be a fair warning. Like, people, there will be a typo every now and then. There might be a mistake, but like, because this is what I'm choosing to put all the extra effort into. And I just like, and my leadership and our team is raw. I don't pretend like I know what I'm doing, but I do care. And so it comes from a place of care and wanting our staff to be healthy and wanting the people we work with to be healthy. So it's really, I think, mission driven, and always learning, like always want to be better, but I'm not going to pretend like if I have to never make a mistake, I'm not going to be able to help anybody. I'm going to be tired from that. Yeah.
I love that. Thanks.
The one that comes to mind, it's the concept of grace upon grace. And it's what helped me deal with my personal loss, the losing of my mom during the pandemic, because she set an example of just being graceful. And that translated into being kind to myself when I most needed it, to especially be kind to others and never letting anything that doesn't align with my values take away from anything that I do or have. And when you show this grace, something magical happens. I mean, opportunities open up, people come to you. I mean, this is a random thing, but I went to this place and I'm just smiling, and somebody said, "Gosh, Christy, you're radiating." I don't know what that means, right? And then somebody brought me something, like somebody wanted to give me something, and I have no explanation for it, right? So that's what happens, right? I think, and so if somebody can say that I'm like my mom, that I'm very graceful, that is the biggest compliment, because I want to, through me, it's her legacy, right? So the best part of me comes from her. So that is what guides me.
You got me, guys. You guys figured it. No, I think oddly enough, when I think about being my authentic self, I feel like I hope it makes someone else feel empowered. Like, if I'm doing it, I want you to feel like you can do it, right? You can be yourself, you can be true. And that's why I love, any opportunity I can mentor others, especially, younger generation coming up and, trying to get their footing in the world. And I really, as I talk with people, I just try to be as, you know, genuine. I know I used the word earlier, but that would be how I describe my authenticity, is just being genuine and with the hopes that I can help others feel that they can do that too, and just be themselves and stay true to who they are. Yeah, I think that's, you all said it better than me, but
No, you each said it wonderfully, and I love how each of your descriptions of your authentic selves was different in many ways. We had, raw, imperfect, and full of care. We have grace upon grace, and Maria, I would summarize that as empowering others and just being incredibly welcoming. Right? Like those are all very different from each other, and yet equally as magnetic, I think, which is just so cool. And that magnetism then translates to who each of you are and what you're doing with your missions, with your organizations. It's incredible. So thank you. I love that. I'd love to turn it to the audience with any questions. We'll wrap up with our last question, but I'd love to turn it to the audience to see if there's anything you'd like to ask this lovely group of women up on the stage here. And I can pass the mic.
Nailed it. Oh. We got camera running.
Hi, I'm Nancy Daniels, and I'm a product consultant, and I came here through Christy. I guess I love the conversation. I guess maybe one of the next questions I would have for you, based on what you're talking about, is you're building something. All of you, you're not solo, right? You're part of organizations and you're leaders. How the things that we're talking about, the authenticity, how does that translate into how you build a team?
Well, I think you nailed it, Nancy. Don't do anything alone, right?
Yeah.
And when you open yourself up, right, you get to be comfortable in making that ask, right? It's hard, I think, to ask somebody for help, right? That's how I used to be. Now, I feel more comfortable because I have, amazing people, right? You build communities like FourthWave, right? All these, even UC Davis, being an Aggie innovator, it just creates all these different circles, and you're able to assemble a team, and you're rooted with core values, right? Lori knows this, right? What are core values? At the heart of it is kindness, right? And you attract people that are like you, and you build from that.
Trying to think about like what our team would say about me or our leadership style. I think that had I gone into Street Soccer USA with the experience and the intention of running an organization, I probably would have approached it differently. But we've kind of been making it up as we go. And we've been adding people in. These jobs did not exist. They didn't exist for me. And so every time we build it out, it's like I have a role and then I step into a new role and I find someone to fill that last one. But how we've dealt with it is I think it's honest, without trying to create like panic. It's like, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. I believe I can do it. And I think they believe that. So there's a lot of trust and relationship, and then trying to paint the picture for them to see it. But if I were to come in and act like I knew exactly how this was going to play out, I think it would create a lot of problems for me and our staff. And it's just, we're in it together. It's very much like a team. People have their roles and everybody has the same merit. Like not one person is more valuable than the other. But it does require a lot of trust because we could want to go in a direction and as a nonprofit, get some different kind of funding that requires us to go in another direction. So it's tricky in trying to set a perfect plan. We try to create a plan with a lot of room for modifications. But again, mission-based, they'll love what they do. They love their impact, and it's retained really well. But I think I think that's kind of how they would say it, and give them the opportunity to have the same experience I do. Like if I get awards, that I want to give them awards, like really pass down the stuff that has given me confidence. Is how do we create that for our staff, our players, and just our whole culture. I always say we. I try to never use the word I, because the second that I think I'm doing this alone is a lie. And so sometimes people are like, who's we? And they think I'm like seeing people. It's just, yeah, there you go.
Well, again, I'm part of a big organization, but I will say I am a team of one doing what I do. So I haven't gotten the chance to really lean into that leadership as far as anyone working with me. But I will say what helps me in what I'm doing with the leadership above me is being able to, them allowing me to be heard. I think what's so important is if I didn't, again, to my past experience that I brought up, it's, I can bring a lot to the table, I can do all this and whatever, but if I can't be heard and be myself and express my ideas or express, thoughts I have about things, and regardless if you take it to heart and make change with it or not, the fact that I'm being heard goes, speaks volumes to your leadership, at least in my opinion. So if I were to have someone working for me, I'd want that to be able to, give them that opportunity to know that no matter what level you're at, I'm going to hear you. I'm going to take it into listen, right? And I think, and I think that really helps to make people feel comfortable in the space. So.
I think there was a question in the back. Did you have a question?
Hi, I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for the talk and the discussion. My notepad is full. And so something that I'm really taking away from this, and by the way, I'm Sharice Green, Sac State alum. I'm a career coach, resume writer. And so a lot of what I do is when I'm working with my clients, we're talking about their stories. It's very introspective, and self-awareness is really important when we're talking about building career documents, selling yourself, so forth and so on. And I also assume that being an authentic leader requires intense self-awareness. So my question is, how do you find that balance when you're in a situation where you're being stretched and you're uncomfortable, and maybe you're in an area where maybe there's not as much awareness, or it's an area of growth? How do you find that balance between knowing, okay, this is in space where I can't be my authentic self versus I'm being stretched in this area and it might be a place for me to grow?
It's a good question. I don't think I've figured it out entirely, because there's moments like we just did a huge event. We hosted the Homeless World Cup here over the summer, and I prepared for it. I knew for 6 months, like we're in work mode. And I knew that it would get uncomfortable, and I knew I wouldn't have the processing and the time and the reflection, but it was like, I planned it in after, I think. And so I think sometimes it's about making decisions where what you want to do is try not to get caught running with your head off forever. There might be events, moments, fundraisers, big projects that are going to require look, we're not journaling. We're pushing through for 4 weeks and then we'll have a break. But then finding a way to take incremental pauses, moments, trips, a day trip, things like that is really, really important. But yeah, I think there are times where it's like we got to a point where I felt like if we could just we opened a facility, we'd never done it before, and it was like, if we can just get through this, then we'll have things. But if we stop now, like we could lose, like we might not reach that point. And so I think having a team, having mentors to have those conversations with, or people who can see you and be like, you're out of control, like you need to chill out. Or even like maybe a mentor can say, hey, like I know this feels like all or nothing, but we're here and I can tell you like you're not going anywhere. So like, but you need to be healthy when you get across that line. So I think having good friends who can like see you, and then, I think it's okay. There's moments like sports was very seasonal. We know that after season we could recover and so I see a lot of our events and kind of the year it's seasonal. We have pushes and then we have to create that downtime and otherwise it will get to you, your mind is going all the time. So you have to physically like go somewhere, pause, stop, and remove yourself. But I think that's something that you kind of have to figure out on your own.
I'll just, kind of piggyback. I think ultimately I'm new in my role, right? And coming from nonprofit to corporate, it's a huge transition. And so I actually too have a husband and a 2-year-old little girl. And so you can imagine coming into I feel like I'm in a different phase in my life where that self-awareness is like key to that life balance that I need to create for myself so I can keep doing the great things that I'm doing, right? And if I don't take the time to make time for my family, for my friends, for those mentors, right? Those people that help keep me sane and keep me doing what I'm doing, and are my other purpose, right? I think if I don't create that, to Lisa's point, I'm just gonna look like go crazy person and forget me. And I don't want to ever do that, Again, I always say my career and what I do is a part of me, but it's not all of me. And I need to be more aware, which I'm working on. Thankfully, there's remote work opportunities, right? That we don't have to be out in the space all the time. And I need to take advantage of that if I can, right? So being able to take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you to take that time and self-reflect and get your mental capacity in the right place is very important.
Delegate. Yeah. Whenever you do anything, someone else can pick the house up. Like, yeah. Doesn't have to be in the job. Yeah.
Charisse, I actually admire you, right? The way you're showing up now with your little one, that's part of you, right? I mean, that's amazing, okay? And I just want to say, for me, balance, it's a myth, right? I used to try to balance, multitask, doing all these things, right? It didn't work because I'm an all or none girl. I mean, when I'm in front of you, you're the most important person there. And whether it's work or family, I choose. So if I can't make it work, I just learn now to say next time. I don't say no, but there'll be other opportunities, right? Don't overstretch yourself, right? And enjoy the moments. And so I haven't learned that. So if you guys have any pointers, I'm all open to it. But I know balancing didn't work for me, and so now I'm just more selective. So I welcome others, that when they show up for me, I want to honor that.
Hello. So I feel like there are different stages of success. Like when I was working on my PowerPoint last night, I'm like, damn, I would feel successful if I could hire some folks to take on these responsibilities. That's what, would be successful to me. So my question is, what are you guys' next successful level or level of success?
Do you have an answer?
Success means so much more, it's much more meaningful now than it used to be. Like before, success was, I don't know, landing like a large client, in like Eastern Europe. And now it's like my success is the success that I achieve through my work, right? Whether it's, with Pair Anything, we're trying to help open up the world of wine to underserved consumers. If I can get somebody like me who looks like me and have the industry pay attention to me, right? That's a win. But also, I don't really lead the company. I actually support others to become leaders. So if they succeed, right, it's such an amazing win, right? We've helped 6 students land high-paying tech jobs, right? I'm equally excited about that than a personal win, and I don't know how to explain it. So those are like next level successes for me.
No, again, piggybacking after Lisa's still thinking that one through. No, you took the words out of my mouth, Christy. I think for me, and people look at me, well, you're younger, you still got a lot of way to go, whatever. But at the same time, I feel like, it's building the next set of us, right? And to Christy's point, helping others thrive in their spaces or what they're passionate about, that is ultimately what I feel is my success. That's why I'm here, is to help others. And so, yeah, it's not, it could be oh, I want to be a senior vice president or chief, whatever. Yeah, of course, we all want that, right? But I think at the end of the day, the more people I can help support in their journeys, that is the win for me. That is, what I want someone to say at my funeral. Maria, the reason I, loved her so much is because she helped me do this. She helped me attain my goals and my success, and that would be the ultimate success for me.
I was like thinking, because I think there's like the organizational goals. There's my personal, but I mean, as an organization, success would look like us existing forever, and that, for the kids, any kid can have access to a team. Any kid who wants to learn a game, play a game, be a part of, they all have a place they can go to, like the adults too, like our homeless adults, or that there is, if somebody shows up and is willing to do the work, that they can reap whatever those benefits are, just being available to anybody who wants more and who wants connection and community. On a personal level, it's a good question. I mean, we just hosted an event called the Homeless World Cup in the summer. In the social impact by sport world around soccer, like that's it. Like there's not like another, it's international. And so we weren't anticipating having that at any time or hosting it here. First time in the US, and so it was huge. But I think like that would have been on our bucket list for a long time. And so now that we've achieved it, I think what it is really now is I'm like, I want to make sure all of our staff, they have healthy jobs, like they're healthy, their lives are healthy, they enjoy what they do. And really just trying to create experiences for people where it can support their life and they can love it. I think that's what we try to do with soccer on a programmatic level. And I think that's what we learned from the Homeless World Cup is like life should be enjoyable if you're willing to work for it. It's like, why do we have to put ourselves in misery? Why can't we have moments of joy? And so I think like that's kind of what we see a lot of people needing, whether they have a home and a life and a job, is like there is a level of joy that is missing. And I think we find that it's like it would be amazing if that could be more relevant and more present in our community, and country, all those things. So there's a lot of ambition in that. but that would feel successful is if kind of people have permission to like be healthy, work hard, and enjoy their lives and not feel guilty or live in poverty over it would be awesome.
I think we have time for one more question. I'll wrap up with our final question for the panel then. I'd love for each of you to share one final thought or piece of advice with the audience and based on our conversation here or in their pursuit of authenticity.
I'll just say this, don't ever apologize for being authentic. Be you, always be you in everything that you do, because that will take you far. Like Chrissy said earlier, it's never gonna always be comfortable, but it'll be worth it.
I think knowing there's like 1,000 ways, a million ways to get to a destination. That was why I love soccer. That's why I was good at scoring goals, because I didn't need to only use the traditional way. Like, and that's something that I carried over in, this role is unprepared, not nearly equipped with the things that I would have thought I needed, but like we understand the goal, we can get there. And nobody told me that I couldn't do it. But find your goal, find out what's important, and take the back door if you've got to. Like lots of doors, lots of ways to get somewhere. And I'm glad nobody discouraged me from doing that.
It's easy to be authentic, right? Sometimes it feels hard, but it's really easy. A quote comes to mind. These are not my words, but if you remember these words, you're living, authentically. Be silly, be honest, and be kind. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Wow, I love it. Thank you each so much. This was a wonderful conversation. I hope you each enjoyed it and the audience as much as I did. Thank you, Maria, Lisa, Christy. I think that's all we got, folks.
How you feel? Good job. Nailed it. What? Highly concentrated. You said super good stuff. Oh, you did great. No, it just means funny. We all have very different stories, which is kind of amazing. I was like listening. I was like,